Welcome back to the Joseph Graham Show. Today's a little bit unique. I was just talking to Kyree right before we came on, and I've been following him for probably about a year, maybe a little bit more. And I bring down a bunch of really cool guests, but this is someone that's actually been in the game for over 11 years. He's done so many different things and helped so many different people. But the reason why I brought him on is because I like how he thinks, his mind, how he writes and articulates things. So, Kyree, in your own words, tell the people who you are, who you help, and what you do.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having me on. It's always a hard one to answer. There's a lot that goes into it. So I am a former Division 1 football player. I'm a husband. I'm a father of two. I've been running my marketing company since 2015. So it'll be 10 years in November for that, but kind of in the world of entrepreneurship since I was 19. Started with public speaking, halftime speeches for football teams when I moved back home from college. Um, in my marketing company, I've done just over $300 million for my clients, just total revenue generated. That's across probably a few hundred clients over that amount of time. And then I do coaching mostly for men, mostly for entrepreneurs, kind of around building a foundational identity that you can revert back to in tough times and great times and whatever it is, like the thing that you can build off of that is actually a solid foundation for whatever else you want to have in your life, whether it's wealth, family. Yeah, I just help people kind of navigate those internal conversations with themselves.
No, I love that. I love that. And I love that you start out, I'm a husband and a father because I'm a husband and a father too. And
Yeah,
that's like the key to my world and everything else goes out from around it. But you also just went over a few things. You're a Division 1 football player. You've gotten over 300 million, I think if I heard correctly,
yeah,
uh, returns for clients. And then I help people actually wake up to a life they love. And I put it in my terms, but good, bad, and different. They're making those choices. How did you that's a wide range. Because I know
yeah.
I've had a lot of people on. A lot of people are like, and I'm this way. I love the chaos. It's like it makes me happy. But marketing, the 300 million, that could be like 4 hours of figuring that one out. Then coaching people and entrepreneurs and helping them do it. But I heard you say something, or I was reading it, and you're like, when I started out, there was so many people out there, but now it's me and maybe one or two.
Yeah.
How did you navigate 11 years in entrepreneurship? I want to start there because you have a wealth of knowledge, but I'm sitting here going, you've been through all the wars. I know what the last 11 years have been like. So
Yeah.
how did you even do that?
So I'll say I had the gift of uh youth and like curiosity. So I got to see a bunch of people ahead of me who had it all figured out, do it the wrong way. I got to see a lot of examples of what not to do. And I equate that kind of in life and in business. I've just always been curious. Again, I've interviewed, or I didn't say it here, but I've interviewed over 1,000 people from when I was 19 until I was about 22, including end of life interviews. I interviewed homeless people, millionaires, billionaires, politicians, lawyers, doctors, like any monks, any type of person you could possibly think of. I've interviewed people like them. And I just got to learn a bunch from a bunch of different sources really quickly. And I got to start drawing patterns of what works and what doesn't. And so, like in the business world, I just got to see a lot of people who got ahead of themselves because of, their biggest cash collected month. I'm going to go, be crazy, grab a new
Yep,
addiction,
yep.
do something insane, or think I'm God's gift to whatever my industry is and everybody should just bow down to me. And then when that doesn't happen, they kind of freak out and they start spiraling mentally. So that's probably one of my biggest accomplishments so far in business is being in here 10 years and not having, a mental breakdown publicly yet. Cause I've just seen so many of them. And it's people who one of my mentors calls it getting over your skis, right? If you lean too far forward, you're going to start tumbling. It's just people who get over their skis really quickly. And so I tried to just start off with all of these lessons in mind before I even, made any sort of money or had a great network that I have now. Um, I just got to learn a lot of the lessons before I made the mistakes.
No, I love that. Where did that curiosity come from? Because most people I know at that age would not be interviewing monks, billionaires, all these different people, even being curious. They're too busy chasing girls and doing things. Where
Yeah,
did that come from?
it was desperation for sure. I had stopped playing football and I had no idea who I was outside of that. Everything had gone toward get a scholarship, play in college, play in the NFL, and then you're great. Like life is that from then on. rich, famous, greatest person of all time, blah, blah, blah. And so when I had to start transitioning out of that and okay, what is next? And instead of, I just had no idea. And so it came out of I'm either going to get really good at figuring out this life thing and who I am as I incorporate myself into it, or I'm really, really going to crash and burn because my brain moves too fast. I'm ready to put all that same energy that I used to put into football into something else. But if I don't know what that is, that's when you can start kind of shooting off in different directions and find the wrong thing. Um, so again, I just had a lot of examples from people of things that I aspire to, but also things that I wanted to avoid on the way to those aspirations.
Mhm. So how did you get those connections? Because that's something that everyone asks me. And sometimes for me, I'm like, I just asked. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's that simple, but like, was it you just were like, you just asked the person, they said yes? Or how did you make those connections? Because that's a lot of people.
Well, so those connections were just asking, genuinely just asking. I mean, it started off with like friends and family. I was working in special education at the time. So I'd interviewed a few people that I knew from work. Um, I actually interviewed my now wife. We had gone to high school together. We didn't know each other. So I was interviewing people that I used to go to school with. So and so's dad's a doctor, like a surgeon. Oh, I want to interview a surgeon. So and so's mom's a lawyer. Oh, I want to interview a lawyer. And I just kind of started spreading out from there. It was just what are different types of people I can possibly get in front of? And it was just the audacity and curiosity to go, hey, am I allowed to talk to these people? And I
Yeah.
didn't get told no very often because again, I was 19 and they could tell I was curious. They could tell it was genuine. I wasn't trying to record these people and put some smear campaign on them. It was just I genuinely had life questions for people who were much further ahead than I was, and I found that people are way more gracious with young people than they are with somebody their age.
Mhm. No, I love that. But and you said two things. So you were audacious enough to ask. Most people are so afraid to ask. I'm in the sales world all day long. You get told 90% of the time, which is fine, don't care. Because that
Yeah,
10% of yes is great. But the fact that you were willing to ask, and like you said, you were younger, but as you've gone along, you've built a network, you've done more stuff. Is it now you still have that audacity to ask? Like I ask CEOs all the time for money because like that's part of what I do in my role. I
yeah,
ask people to go do stuff all the time. Have you just developed that more? Because you said before it was because you were young and curious and people are nice. But I know your network. I've seen my network. Like,
yeah,
how do you develop it now, or how do you get those conversations now that you know, you're not 19 anymore? You've done a
yeah.
lot of stuff since then.
I would say I actually do the exact opposite. I don't ask for anything. So the type of people that I now network with, they have people asking them for things constantly. And so I even have told them, like when they'll tell me, because they all do, and because they're nice people, anything you ever need, man, just let me know. And my answer is always the same. I won't ask you, even if I really needed it for anything, probably for the first year or two of me knowing you. You could be the perfect person to help me out with something. I want there to be no question why I'm friends with you. And so then I have the responsibility of having a simply merit based, like, I like being around this person, I like interacting with this person type of network with this, like with whoever it is. There's no transaction, there's no give and take, there's no who can I introduce you to, who can you introduce me to. It's just I like this person, we want to hang out, and maybe somewhere down the road we figure out, something lands in our lap that we should work on together, or that I should introduce you to so and so because you guys would get along really well. So I do kind of the exact opposite now. I don't ask for anything ever, and I just give of myself. I do free projects all the time. I help them out with random things that they need. I help them clean up ad accounts, or hey, my son's dealing with this, my teenage son. What do I do to talk to him about it? Um, and so now I just have a bunch of people that I could call upon if I needed to, that I probably never will. But I like collecting awesome people.
No, no, I'm with you. It's the relationship first. It's I'm not trying to get something from you. I just want to get to know you. Like I've done this at events before, just thinking about like I paid for a VIP thing. There was this dude that was worth I think 12 to 14 million and no one was talking to him. I went up, I didn't go up and try and pitch him. I just introduced myself. We chit-chatted for like 30 to 45 minutes just on something that was interesting to him. Now I have the connection, but I don't ever try to use it. It's not like
Yeah,
that's not my thought. I don't look at people as things. I look at people as is this someone I like? Is this someone I trust? And is this someone that I want to actually be involved with? And then down the road, yeah, if I need something, maybe I'll ask. But I'm always at give first. Have you read the book The Go Giver by Bob Berg?
I think I did a very long time ago.
Yeah, it's that same type of principle. I had him on my podcast, I think last summer, but just that
Yeah,
idea of you're not when you're networking, when you're reaching out to people, you're talking to them, you're not trying to get something from them. You're just trying to see if you guys can be friends and connect and you help them. And then in the future, but I'm going to ask you this because I'm a very curious person now too.
Yeah.
You said that you always wanted to be set up that it's not a you taking from them situation, which I get that. I'm the same way. I'm always the guy that's giving, helping, doing. Is that a place of something where you just don't feel comfortable asking, or why? I'm just asking what your thoughts are on it because some people would take that and go, "Oh, he's afraid to ask for help," but I've watched your content, you're not. So I'm just
No,
trying
I
to understand that so people understand more.
the thing is, because I'm really open about my life and what we're dealing with and what we're struggling with. So, like, I had a friend pass last year. The people who call me, you couldn't pay in the millions of dollars to get those people to get on the phone with you. But they called me because they knew that I was going through something. They knew that there was a difficulty in my life. And so I don't have to ask is the actual answer.
Mhm.
I'm open and I'm honest and I'll talk to them about it. And the people that I would ask something from, we talk on a weekly or every few weeks basis anyway. Um, and so yeah, I just it's not from a scheming, I'm not going to ask for anything so that they'll ask me if I need anything. I genuinely like I only will network with those people of that status that I actually enjoy anyway. Also, like I know a lot of the guys who are worth, let's say, the same amount or more than a lot of the guys that I'm very close with that I have no interest in networking
Mhm.
with or talking to or like anything, not even hopping on a Zoom call. I've politely declined Zoom calls with amazing looking people, if you just looked at the brand, but because I know too much or I've heard too much or I can feel or sense something out of people, it's just a very easy, hey, no, thank you. But, if you ever wanted to do any sort of business together or if you ever need help with marketing, I'm happy to help you out.
Well, I mean, but you need to have that. You need to have your circle and the people that you trust and and
Yeah, but
like you
everybody
said.
says they would and they don't.
Mhm.
I think that's the difficulty there is everybody says that they have boundaries. Everybody says they have discernment with who they're networking with. You put enough money in front of most people, they'll network with anybody. They'll talk to just about anybody.
Yeah, yeah. When I think that part of that is human nature, part of it is they've not been in that position before. So like when
Yeah.
I mean, if you offer someone that's never had $1 million available to them before, that's going to be a harder no for them than someone that dealing with it in money and knows how to make it a different way. I'm not justifying. I'm just saying I understand their thought process, but your integrity at the end of the day is your brand in my mind. What you're willing to do, who you're willing to connect with. I've walked away from deals before because I found out I couldn't. Like I used to sell oil and gas years ago.
Mhm.
Super short story. I got a doctor to invest over $875,000 with me, which I got 10%. That's good money, right? Well,
Yeah.
then I found out the wells weren't working. I quit the job. I couldn't do it because I have to live off of if I'm going to sell you something because I'm always a relationship first approach guy with that. Then I left the job, went through 2 years of hell, then ended up moving into corporate America in a different way, and it worked out well. But I think integrity is so huge. So
Yeah.
how do you say it's someone young and curious like you at 19 that doesn't have your wisdom and knowledge? How do you discern who's helping you and who's trying to take advantage of you? Because there's so many crazy voices, and then maybe they see the Lambo or the other stuff, which to me is not a big deal. But 19, a Lambo was cool. Now I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't care about Lambos because I'm not a car guy.
Yeah. That's the coolest thing in the world when you're a young kid and there you go. And just haven't been attuned to that, let's say yet. So what are you saying? Like if somebody were to come and ask me for advice or help, that's that
Yeah,
age?
like say, because a lot of people that listen to this are first time entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
highly successful sales professionals, and then some of my cool friends that we're probably friends with. But I know my group. Those are the people that typically do. And then my demographics, mostly from 19 to 55. I know
Mhm.
that's a wide range, as 75% male. But on the younger stage, they're trying to build their brand. They're trying to figure
Yeah.
things out. They're trying to understand yeah, that's who I was asking that about.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's long term versus short term thinking. The things that will impress people short term will actually repel the long term people that you actually want. And so I say, the job of like a young man in business is to become respectable to the men whose respect they most desire. It's not for the random guy with the supercar and the hot girls and whatever surrounds that. Um, those guys will come in, they'll squeeze something out of you, and then you'll be gone. And we've kind of seen it. We've obviously there's movies about it, Wall Street, Wolf of Wall Street, all these movies about like the big fish. Somebody gets acquainted with them and they have the glitz and glamour kind of lifestyle that that young guy wants, and then they kind of just get squeezed for all their juice and cast aside. I'm much more interested in the people the people to whom those men look silly, like the people who have like the flashy crazy. I want to talk to the men who view those guys as like, oh, that's a silly thing to do with your time and money and effort and energy. Um, I want to talk to like the wise old guys that are kind of boring, on the surface at least, because they're some of the most interesting people I've ever met. Um, but yeah, I would say you should massively optimize for the guy who has everything except what looks great on Instagram. Like he has all the things that actually make him sleep good at night, make him feel great about himself and who he is and how he shows up in the world, and doesn't need the rest of it. Um, but it's hard because you have to kind of, especially as a young guy, like look past all the things that you've always desired: the cars, the girls, the boats, the whatever. Those are things that every young guy dreams about, and so you kind of have to be willing to um, I guess, delay that gratification for yourself in order to look at what's the 20, 30, or 40 years down the road look like.
Now, success is boring. It's doing the right things over and over with the known end, but delayed gratification is the way that actually you win. Like
Yeah.
I've been doing it for long. I tried the shortcuts and none of the shortcuts ever work. And yeah, no, I love that. I,
Well,
I
that was
think
part of
so.
that post you brought up about like most people who I started with aren't here anymore. That was part of it was, the long, boring route is the shortcut. All the shortcuts are the long way because you just have to loop back around. They're just detours. And then you got to go right back to the starting point and then start trying to build from there. So, yeah, the long way is the shortcut.
Well, and I like that. So now I want to go a little bit different because I know you do a bunch in marketing. And I talk to a lot of people on marketing, but I want to dig more into you say you do coaching. So when you
Mhm.
say you coach people, are you coaching people that are just starting out? Are you coaching people that are a little bit farther along? And let's dig into that a little bit more. So when you say coaching is a wide term,
Yeah.
how do you help people? Maybe I should ask it that way
Yeah.
on the
I,
coaching
I
side.
I joke that I'm a big brother for hire. Um, it's usually guys, let's say 18 to 30. They've made a great money for their age or their time in business. Um, and I think they're figuring out what is the long term. Again, they've like achieved the short term. Great, I've got money now. And that's all I ever wanted. But I'm looking at life and there's a lot more to it. And I've in my pursuit of money or optimizing toward business success, I've atrophied the other pieces of myself, or I just never learned them or picked them up. How to have solid relationships, how to network with people, how to feel great about myself, how to rest easy when I'm in bed at night, how to stop wrestling with my internal voice all the time. And so I try to help people build those things because those are the things again that I built slowly because I listened to people who had done it slowly in their own time, and then I compared them to people who try to do everything quickly and how much more difficult everything was long term. So I try to teach guys what I learned when I was around their age. And they have a lot more money than I did at their age too. So it makes it a lot harder. It makes it a lot more enticing to go do a lot of the other things. Not that you shouldn't ever go have fun. It's that that shouldn't be the end all be all of your entire identity.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I think I see a pattern a lot of time with high achievers because we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about high achievers. If they've made money, they've done stuff, they throw themselves into that, but they don't always know. Like I know for myself, it took me years to figure out how to rest. Now I go for walks. Now I do breath work. Now I do different things that help me because I was always like, I'd win. And then I'd be like, what's next? I'd win. I'd be like, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
For the guy that's at that stage and he's moving forward, how do you help them walk through knowing that it's okay to pause? Because what I found is slowing down actually speeds me up sometimes. But in the beginning, when I was young, I was like 12-hour, 14-hour days, grind, grind, grind.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a season for grind, grind, grind. I was just talking to a kid last week who's 23 and just sold his first company, and he was in the season of grind, 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 and tried to like get your valuation as high as possible for when you do sell. Okay, now I sold.
Mhm.
Okay, now the money's in my bank account. Now what? And the answer was rest. figure out what's next, figure out what the hell you're doing with the money that you have now, and notice like your point of leverage. Like you have so much more than you ever thought you would at this point. You can be a lot more picky with the next thing. You can also
Mhm.
take your time on the next thing. Not everybody's obviously in that place. Um, but being able to understand, like when you learn shooting, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, the way to do this without completely tumbling or completely burning out, which I talk about a lot, like the people who've just grind their face into the ground and then they end up completely burning out, and then you're absolutely doing zero for X period of time while you're, recovering or doing whatever you need to do to get back on top. I think it's so much easier to, like a long distance runner, figure out what your pace is and
Mhm.
then just run at that pace and just do that. And it's hard because entrepreneurship, especially in sales as well, attracts addicts, and it attracts people with like the I need, the dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. And so it's really hard to tell those people like, hey, take it easy sometimes, or hey, you can actually slow down and again think more long term with this. It's really
Mhm.
hard to have those conversations with them. So the real answer is typically I have to wait until they run into a wall and then go,
Yeah.
hey, you see that wall there? Told you about that a few months ago. Now what do we
Yeah.
do differently?
Yeah. No, no, I get that. I get that. And looking back at, because I've been in sales 20 years and then I run a side business, I do a podcast. So like I played like a hybrid role, but I was that guy. Like I was always chasing the high and trying to figure things out. I think sometimes you have to hit the wall
Mm-hmm,
and then have someone like you there to help say, hey, let's try it a little bit different. Another buddy of mine was talking about how Olympic athletes, and this is what helped me, train at 70% until it's game time. So there's a
mm-hmm,
time, like you mentioned, where you got to grind, but normally they go 70% when they're practicing, when they're practicing, when they're practicing, and then they go all out because you have to have that endurance in that long game.
yeah,
What has been your motivation to keep going? Because again, you've been here for 11 years, which is more than most. And I'm saying this because I've done over 225 interviews, and a lot of people have not been here as long as you, which is crazy.
yeah.
Which I mean, I'm commending you on, but it's just
Thank
funny.
you,
I
man.
see things in patterns. So, what has been your driving force to keep going? Because you already did over 300 million with your client. I'm gonna just assume based off of that, you know how to handle money, do business. You could probably go
Sure,
do something else if you want,
sure.
but you're consistent online all the time. I see you every day.
Yeah, I've been posting 3 times a day since April 27th of 2018. I'm here. I'm the most consistent. I have only the boring answer for you. I wish I had a more clever one. This is just who I am. This is what I do now. This is who I am. And that's what I try to build for people. The results that you want, the thing that you desire to have, it needs to be a natural outcome of just this is who I am. Of course I have this. Of course I have, the family, the wife, the kids, or whatever. Or if it's the person with the car or the boat or the $100 million exit, whatever that is, of course I have that. And I think it needs to be like also shared in the people around you should just feel like, oh, of course, that guy, when I tell them something about myself or something I've accomplished, like, yeah, you seem like the guy who would do something like that. I think it needs to be so ingrained in your psyche and again, so deeply ingrained in your identity that it just comes naturally now. Of course, this is what I do. So I couldn't imagine not doing what I do now. I can't imagine not consulting for the companies I consult with. I enjoy it. I like watching
Mhm.
them win when it comes to, you know, whether it's direct advertising or just marketing systems in general or marketing concepts or the overall strategy. Same thing with coaching. Like this is what I did for friends already before I realized I could charge for it. Before
Mhm.
I realized like, oh, I can spread the wings a little bit more and have more people understand who I am and can come in and experience some of this from me. And I have to create some sort of structure around it to kind of be helpful in that way. Um, but this is just who I am. This is what I would talk about anyway. I like talking about who we are as people and how that was crafted. There was a lot of the interviews that I did was around why did you become who you became, good, bad, or ugly. Again, from the millionaires, billionaires down to the homeless people, like they all got the same questions for the most part. And it's how did you end up who you are right now? And it was a bunch of stories that they had about their past lives. And what's interesting is the top and the bottom had a lot of similar stories. Most of the people that were the richest, most successful people that I had met had really hard come up stories. And so did the homeless people that I had met. They had really hard come up stories. And what they did with the story, what the story meant to them, or what they told themselves the story meant about the world around them is a huge part of what shifted and like what caused the change in those people. So I just realized again pretty early, we're a collection, like our identity is a collection of stories. If I can help you change the
Mhm.
relationship with some of those stories, I can help you change how you interact with yourself and with the world around you.
No, I again love that because in my mind, because I see patterns sometimes, and I think I heard this from my buddy Justin Breen, so I don't ever like take credit for this, not me. But high achievers have four typical things they deal with. They might be ADHD or dyslexia. They've had a traumatic event in their life. They have a chip on their shoulder, and they have a high EQ or a high IQ. Those four things seem to be patterns that I see a lot.
Sure.
But like you said, the top and the bottom of what society would throw out there. I don't judge people boys, but just
Sure.
society,
It's a bell
rich,
curve.
poor. Yeah, they had the same events, could have grown up in the same house, but how they responded determined their outcome. So I loved how you did that. But you have like I almost want to say a confidence that just comes from knowing who you are. How
Mhm.
did you develop that? Because a lot of people try to do it and like you can smell it a mile away. You're like, this guy is just not for real. But you like you're just genuine and I love that about you. But
Yeah.
I just how did you develop that?
Yeah. It's funny. I obviously, anytime you say something like that, like you got a bunch of people kind of trying to look like this, all the names
They
start popping
do.
up in your head that you see
Yep,
online.
yep,
You're
yep.
like, oh, yeah, that's a rough one. Again, this is not a fun answer. I stared at myself in the mirror for about an hour, 3 times a week for about 18 months. That was it. I just stared at myself. And whatever popped up, I told myself I was going to handle and manage to the best of my ability. If anything popped up that I wasn't able to handle, I would go seek professional help, which is exactly what I would tell anybody who wants to try that. But I
Mhm.
spent a lot of time staring at myself and figuring out who this is and what do I like and what do I hate. And I cried a whole lot. And um, I was searching and I was prospecting and figuring, like, not sales prospecting, but like literally digging through my psyche and my identity and the stories that I tell myself about my life up to that point and my regrets and my hopes and my fears and my failures, and everything came up and I met myself. Like I really really got to
Mm.
spend a lot of time with myself. I was living in a trailer. I didn't have a whole lot going on, so I was like, this is the time to figure this thing out. And then now that I have it, it just uh, there's a guy who talks about these like magic glasses, and I think self-awareness is a big part of like the magic glasses concept. And he's like, there's three rules about the magic glasses. Once you put them on, you can't take them off, you can't make anybody else wear them, and you see the world and yourself how it actually is, not how you think it should be. And so I think there are people, and we can recognize other people who have those magic glasses on, and we can hope other people choose to put them on and realize also you can't make anybody do it. So I try to find people who are already looking for it, help them find whatever that is for them, and it looks different for everybody.
Yeah. When I think that goes back and circles back to what you said. You develop relationships with no strings attached. You just reach out and help people. You've connected with the right people. So those people are naturally drawn to you because we talked about it earlier. Your identity will draw the right people. And because you're confident in who you are, it doesn't come across in the fake, weird takeaway thing. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
But you
And
also are willing to do the hard work. Go ahead.
yeah, it's both of those. And it's also something that's hard. Like I'll never teach it publicly. Um, because it's in context and because I know people are good at like ruining it. So if I talked too much about, how I network with people or um how I appeal to the type of people that I network with. I mean, I have billionaires in my phone that call me on holidays and my birthday. The poker game that I play out on a weekly basis, the I would say it's a 400 to 500 million dollar net worth, like spread around the table. I'm like the brokest one at that table by far, and I love it. And
Yep.
I get
Yep.
to spend also 10 hours with those guys on a weekly basis. We play poker from like 7 p.m. to like 5 a.m. every week.
That's
Um,
nice. That's fun.
yeah, these are people like you couldn't possibly replace, but you can
Hmm.
only ingratiate yourself with these people by being a certain type of person and just being yourself too, because they sniff it out quickly. We
Hmm.
always have people like somebody can't make it this week. Okay, invite somebody else or invite somebody in your network. And very quickly we realize whether that person belongs at that table or not. And it
Yep.
has nothing to do with how much money they make. It has nothing to do with anything other than how do you interact with yourself? How do you treat yourself, carry yourself, and then how do you interact with the rest of the people around the table? And you have to fit, like you have to mesh. You can be different. I look different than every single other person at that table. Let me tell you. Um, but you have to be able to still like hold these core sets of I don't even know if it's values, but just shared understandings with other people that are in that space. Um, and yeah, once you learn that game, just how to be yourself, it just becomes so much easier because you can very quickly decide like, oh, this just isn't for me. If it's going to force me to be something else, that just isn't for me. No matter how who's attached to it or how much money is attached to it, it just doesn't work for me.
No, I love that because you did the post on if you are the smartest person or richest person, you're at the wrong table. And
Yeah,
I'm not
you're dumb.
paraphrasing. You wrote it better than that. But dude, I'm always trying to, not even trying anymore. It's just I think it's this. It's who you become when you do the inner work. Those doors open up, and then you have friendships and connections. You're not even, I'm like, I don't even think about it. Like I don't look and go, oh, Kyree has 500 million and Tim only has. I don't care. Like it
No,
doesn't click in my head. It doesn't register. But now I'm friends with really cool people. Like I could go and call them like, oh, like one of my friends just went to the White House to for Black History Month because he got to go and do the thing, which is cool. And I'm like sitting there going, I have friends that actually get to go and stand in like our country's capital
yeah, that's
to get to
wild.
be honored for crazy cool stuff that I met just because I was friends with another dude that I knew another dude, and we just became friends. But it's never been to me about who has money or who doesn't. That's not even
No,
in that circles, and you can tell. I think we think the same way. They don't look at it that way. The only people that get kicked out of those circles are the ones that judge that.
yeah. Again, dude, I am poor at that table. I am like dirt poor. I do great. Let me tell you,
Hmm.
I do great, and I am poor at that table. And I like. There's nothing. There's no feeling of insecurity. There's no. I'm less than. They're also, most of them are 20, at least 20 years older than I am.
Hmm.
But there's a guy in there who's 36. He's 6 years older than I am, and just exited for over 100 million. I
Hmm.
just did a podcast with him. What was that, a month and a half ago? Something like that. It's on my I just put it up on my YouTube. It was like the first thing I've posted in a long time. But he's become like one of my best friends. And
Hmm.
there's none of that in our conversations. And he's hired me multiple times. I've done consulting for his company. I've helped like work with some of his executives in his company. Um, there's just no sense of less than or more than. And if there ever was, those people again just don't get invited back. We're all with like these guys have all won. They're exchanging thousands of dollars on a weekly basis playing poker with each other. There are guys who lose a lot of money every like on a week to week basis, but they all do business together. One of them's a real estate investor, one of them's a real estate broker, one of them fixes up the houses. Like so many of these guys, a few of them went to high school together. They all have known each other for a long time. I'm lucky to be kind of part of that group now with them, but they don't care who does or who doesn't have. I don't like at all, not even a little bit.
Hmm. No, I love that. But see, again, success leaves clues. There's always patterns. When you were younger, you developed yourself and built yourself into who you were. You were super curious about what was going on so that you could
Yeah.
develop a life you wanted to live. And now you're living that life, but not in a, I'm doing this in a conniving way. This is just who you are as a person, which I it's so interesting because again, I keep going back and I'm thinking through my head all the fake people out there that say this thing. I'm like, 3 years they're going to be gone, in 2 years they're going to be gone because the truth will set you free. And then the
Mhm.
other thing that I've noticed, and I want your thoughts on this, and we both coach a little bit. You coach more than I do. I just coach a little on the side.
Yeah.
But most of the successful people I found are in control of boring businesses that
God,
consistently make
yes.
them money, but aren't really coaches. Most coaches that I see are not the ones that are super successful in that they coach after they built a business, did a thing, or maybe developed a skill. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, most of the guys run super boring businesses that you never actually want to like sit down and hear about. Uh
Mm.
or yeah, if they are noteworthy, which none of these guys are, like they just don't have their faces out there publicly. Um so the ones that I do know that are very successful as coaches, they've built something else. And that was what I needed to do as well. That's why I built my marketing company. I started wanting to coach people at 20, and I was like, I'm way too young. I don't actually know this stuff. Like I know it intellectually, it hasn't sunk in yet. And so I need to figure that piece out first before I'm willing to like morally and ethically willing to go share it with people. And so I started building my marketing company. And it was only at the point where I financially didn't need to coach people that I started coaching people because I just didn't want that question floating around in my head. I see a lot of people come in, try to start coaching, and then they all have this point where it goes, I can't help this person, or it's going to be really hard, or I don't know if I have the tools to help this person, but they're willing to pay me X amount of money and rent's due next week. I just never wanted to have that question in my
Hmm.
head.
Yeah, yeah.
I never
With
wanted to
you,
deal with
with
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like what I do. Because so, like when I told you I'm a hybrid, I still work for a Fortune 50 company. I'm a top closer for them. I love that game because I deal with companies 300 to 1,000 people. I talk to CEOs. I'm working with I can't say it yet. I'm working with some companies that like it's just really cool. I caught
Good
myself.
catch. Good catch.
Um, but here's the crazy thing. Because of that, now I can help people with sales because that's what I'm known for. And typically, what ends up happening is I talk to them about sales, and then we start talking about mindset and their life and their why behind it. Because sales is easy. But now
Yeah.
that I can do it, and I walk away from people all the time, like, no, I won't coach you. I like you, but I'm not going to because I don't ever want it to be feeling like the pressure of I have to perform for them. And the other thing is I don't ever want it to be, I won't, I'll refer people away. If I can't help you, I love that. I do that in my sales job
Always.
as well. I'm like, I can't do this, but I know Kyree can help you or someone else can help you. And it comes back. But yeah, if your rents due, that again goes back to integrity. And sadly, I would say 50% of people would take the money over keeping their integrity. And I'm not trying to be mean. It's no judgment.
No,
I've been
no. Well,
on food stamps. I've done this. I've done the deal when I was younger in sales, but still, it's like,
yeah, I used to do it in my marketing business. Like I got to buy dog food. And so I'm going to take on this project that I need to way undercharge for because I need the money. It's not going to
yep,
be a good client. They're going to be annoying as hell. They're going to be in my ear. It's always the ones who want the deal that are the most annoying. And so, instead of my normal 1,500, because I don't think they're going to say yes to it, I'm going to charge $500. This is like 2016.
yep,
Because
yep.
I got to pay rent and I'm $400 short and I got to buy dog food for my husky. All right,
Mhm.
like I'm gonna take on this terrible, terrible thing, and lo and behold, it becomes a terrible, terrible thing, and it wasn't worth it. But it's necessary. Again, I just didn't want that when I had other people's lives like that I'm
Mhm.
partially at least responsible for.
Yeah. No, I love that. I've been there the same way. And then it's like you're like, I did this, and now I just want them to be gone, and it's not
Oh my
working.
gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why like thank God I started implementing, I don't do more than 3 months at the beginning. We can figure out whether we like each other, whether we want to work
Yep.
together, and then we can do something more long term. Because yeah, if I was stuck with that client for a year, I would have not been happy about it.
Yeah. I same way. I was doing one-on-one. I have a few that they're doing what I've asked them to do, and I'm seeing progress, so I'm keeping them. But normally, I'm like, I'm just gonna come in and fix your shit because I'm really good at fixing like sales stuff, like processes and systems, that type of
Yep.
thing. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's gonna take 2 to 3 calls. That's it. And I like that better because then I can kind of just pop it out more in that regard. But
Yep.
no, dude, that's crazy. Um, we're not done, but I like to put kind of in the middle. Where can people find you?
Instagram is probably the easiest, just at Kyree. If they're friends with you on Facebook, I'll probably pop up just under Kyree Oliver. I don't remember my link. I think it's Kyree like Facebook.com/, I think it's Kyree Oliver 1994. Um, but
We'll
yeah,
we'll
I mean,
drop
if
it
you
in
look
the
up
notes.
Kyree
That's
Oliver, you're
fine.
gonna see a picture of me. So I'm not easily mistaken for other people. So yeah, Instagram, Facebook, that's where I probably post the most.
No, I love that. I love that. And I'll get the link for me. We can drop it in the show note.
Yeah,
So I know we've talked about a lot of stuff. I'm gonna have to have you on a second time because we could probably go a lot longer, but I have an
totally down.
appointment we already talked about. Um, for the listener that's out there, we've talked about a little bit about marketing, more about self-improvement, finding your why, finding what you are. What have we missed? Is there something else that's just sitting on you that you'd say, hey, let's talk about this?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard because we've gone over like good podcasts do the more generalized understanding, get to know yourself. Self-awareness is huge. Um, give without asking, just be genuine in your approaches with people. I just don't know if there's a whole lot more like generally that I can think of in this vein.
Well,
Yeah, I
let
think
me
we've covered.
rephrase it a little bit differently. If you could go back and tell your 19-year-old self, and you got to talk to them on anything, would there be anything you would go back, whether it's words of encouragement, whether it's grind it out, whether it's don't do this? What would you tell your 19-year-old self Because you are the sum of who you are now. So I don't think you want to change anything, but what would
No,
you encourage your 19-year-old self with?
honestly, I would keep it a mystery. I would say strap in, buddy. That's it. Like I wouldn't want to know. I wouldn't want him to know because I think that if he knew, he might not do it. I think that
I
this is
love
like a
that.
huge thing. I get it a lot when people talk about, this kid's an old soul. I'm only 30. So because
Mhm.
of how long I've been in it, accomplishments, blah, 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 at 30, I get a lot of the, man, I wish I had that when I was your age. One, you did. And you were probably partying and fucking off and doing other things.
Mhm.
I was
Yep.
working 16, 18 hours a day. Like that's why I'm here. But also the like pain and difficulty and uncertainty and sleepless nights that it took to get here, if I really put that in front of you and said, okay, you can have this, but here's what it costs, would you actually take it? And my 19-year-old self wouldn't have taken it. And so I
Mhm.
can't tell him anything about it. I can't give him the piece of advice. I just go, hey, man, it's going to be worth it. Like you'll have fun along the way. It's going to be worth it. And that's all he should know. He doesn't need to know how difficult it's going to be because he'd probably stop. He'd probably go do something else, something more safe.
Dude, I love that. I love that more than almost anything else you said because so many times I'll tell people that and they'll give themselves different things, which is cool. And I'm just sitting here going, I know myself at 19. I was a young punk kid. I've been married 23 years now. I met my wife,
Hey,
I think, when I
he's
was
not going to
20.
listen.
Like,
Yeah.
no, I wasn't thinking anything at all. I was like stupid, young, and dumb. And now sitting back, I'm 47, so I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah.
I would be if I would have went through the crap I went through, all the trauma, all the pain, all the heartaches, all the failures, but all the excitement, the awards, all that stuff, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love that answer because I was just, I just kind of like to see what people's minds are and how it goes. Again, like I'm a curious person. I just like to figure
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah. If I just showed him like a short video of my life now, he'd be like, "Oh my gosh, whatever it takes to get there, I'm in."
Hmm.
And then I show him what it takes to get there. He'd be like, "Wait, wait, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's kind of what about that part? That part's kind of rough. Like that thing over there. I don't know if I want to deal with that." So he would just even if he did it, he would just have a lot of questions.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I wouldn't show him anything. I would just be like, "It's all worth it. You get it at the end. Great job. Now go have fun."
Yeah. Well, and I think it comes down to some of the points we talked about. Success is not what they try to show you on Instagram Reels or the flashy stuff. It's the consistent work. It's the consistent self-development. It's the trial and error. It's you mentioned it before, being consistent even when it's not easy. I'm quite sure, just from the limited knowledge I know of you, you've gone through a lot of times where you had to stick it out and be consistent, even though it wasn't fun, it wasn't there. Since 2000, I believe 19, you said you've been posting on Facebook 3 times a day. Consistency is more valuable than a really quick hit and then fading away. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of those principles are there. Uh, Kyree, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, man.
Next time I have you on, we're going to go a little bit deeper and maybe just even more because I know you guys have to follow him on Facebook, on Instagram. If you want a deep thinker, yes, you are definitely an old soul. I can say that, but you're just what I like about you the most is you're completely you, and it's just authentic and not in the weird buzzword authentic. I have
Yeah.
to throw that out there because
Not
too
what
many
that's
people
what
have that
comes.
stupid authentic. No, he's just who he's supposed to be, and that's
Yeah.
the key to building anything. Any words you want to leave the audience before we let you go?
Good. That's it. I think we covered it.
Awesome. Well, guys, send this episode to someone you know, and then take the wisdom that was given and apply it because me and Kyrie are doing good. We're loving life and doing the things we want to do, but we want you to sit across from us one time or maybe connect with us or the right people in your life. So until then, go out and try to get 1% better each and every day.